Diamonds are forever, and the ultimate symbol of love. If you plan to marry someone, a diamond ring is all but a mandatory purchase. What if I told you that 100 years ago, this was an uncommon practice? So, where did the craze come from? What I'm about to tell you is one of the most deeply rooted scams in history that most of society is completely unaware of. Eggs and bacon. The sales for these two products were dropping off in the 1920s. Less physically demanding jobs and cultural changes had left the producers of these products desperate. They hired Edward Bernays to popularize eggs and bacon for breakfast again. As a result, a massive ad campaign followed, informing the general populace that large breakfasts were healthier than light ones. There was no real evidence to prove this claim, but the ads worked, and eggs and bacon are commonplace as breakfast foods to this day. This is an example of how propaganda can steer an entire nation to change its lifestyle. However, this is nowhere near as significant as that of the De Beers Company, notorious for its monopoly on diamonds. What are diamonds? Diamonds are a type of gemstone made entirely out of carbon. Cecil Rhodes was a pretty average person, born in 1853. He grew up on a farm and moved to South Africa to help his brother farm cotton. Once he got there, he realized that his brother had gone off to a local mine in search of diamonds. Eventually, Cecil made his way to those mines. After a few years' break for university, he returned with his new friends in search of fortune. They founded the De Beers Mining Company and grew rapidly. They then allocated their resources to take over other mining companies. Eventually, De Beers obtained 90% of the world's diamond mines. To prevent theft, it was reported that the labor was beaten to keep the secrets and products of the mines safe. With this power, De Beers was able to establish a cartel, which funneled the majority of the world's diamonds to the Central Selling Organization in London. From there, the diamonds were graded and sold to select dealers. After acquiring the majority of mining companies, Cecil shifted his focus to the supply and demand of diamonds. He only allowed distribution of his diamonds through the Diamond Trading Company in London and the Syndicate in Israel. His goal was simple: to make diamonds seem rare and therefore more valuable. People seemed to care less about diamonds in the 1930s. To combat this, a massive ad campaign was funded. Early on, they focused on Hollywood. They would adorn the actresses with valuable diamonds to make them more desirable. Remember how I said that diamond engagement rings were uncommon? This marketing campaign popularized the practice in the early 1900s. In 1947, they struck gold, or diamond rather, by coming up with the slogan, "A diamond is forever." The concept of equating diamonds to love worked tremendously, and now every man was purchasing the largest diamond they could afford for their love.
Diamonds are a great example of how desire is being manufactured. Again, the most important thing to know about diamonds, there's two major myths. The first myth about diamonds is that diamonds are rare, and they're not. Diamonds are really common, and their value does not come from their scarcity. And the 20th century, in fact, has been the story of how diamonds have been restricted from entering the market. The second myth about diamonds is that they're connected in some intrinsic way to love and to marriage and to courtship. And again, this is a story that was created around 1947, when a copywriter at the NWA's advertising agency in Madison Avenue, not far from here, came up with a slogan, "A diamond is forever." And the diamond is forever was an attempt to make diamonds a mass consumer item.
And you say that now that the diamond is forever has been seen as being the quintessential thing an ad should live up to?
Well, the diamond is forever has been identified by the advertising industry as the most important marketing campaign, the most effective marketing campaign of the 20th century.
So people started saying, well, if I buy a diamond, the diamond means I love you. And the more I spend, I love you that much more. Is that what it was? Yeah.
Well, the campaign actually had two goals.
Okay.
The campaign they wanted for women, they wanted to instill the idea that diamonds were a necessity for marriage and courtship. And for men, they wanted to instill the idea that the bigger the diamond, the greater the love. The problem with that is, what about all those poor, working class people that you want to get in the market, but who can't afford the really high-end ring. So they came up with this, it's absolutely brilliant strategy. They came up with this, the 2-month salary guideline. So it all becomes a relative thing. So even if you're not a millionaire, if you spend 2 months of your salary on a diamond, it means it shows how much you love the person you're going to marry. It was a brilliant strategy. I mean, they managed to convince men, some men, to go into debt to buy these worthless things that they have billions of sitting in warehouses. And De Beers was able to...
And I love you so much, I'm going into debt for you and for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And most probably will still be paying off the debt when they get divorced.
I mean, imagine paying for these high-end, big-name brands and getting scammed like an idiot all these years. Dior and other high-end brands are caught in a scandal of epic proportions. It turns out Dior has been accused of labor exploitation in Italy, with workers living in deplorable conditions cranking out handbags for as little as 53 euros each. These bags sold for a whopping 2,600 euros. Unreal. And this highlights the massive profit margins and ethical lapses of luxury brands like Dior and Armani. Luxury fashion is like the diamond deception, okay? It's a double whammy of manipulation. Let me explain to you how much of a scam these brands are alongside the diamond industry. Because just like the high-end fashion brands, the diamond market has been pulling the wool over people's eyes for so many years. Contrary to popular belief, diamonds aren't rare at all. Actually, entire warehouses are filled with these so-called scarce little gems, and they're kept off the market on purpose to maintain sky-high prices. This artificial scarcity ensures that diamonds remain a symbol of wealth and exclusivity, even though they're as common as rocks in some areas, okay? There are diamond miners that keep mining for diamonds, finding insane amounts of diamonds that they're not allowed to sell on the market. You heard that right. They keep them in these warehouses and they can't do anything with them because the market is manufacturing scarcity. And while we're all on the topic of scams here, let's not forget the high-end brands like Dior and like Balenciaga, okay? All of these luxury labels, much like the diamond industry, manipulate perceptions of rarity and value to keep their prices inflated. So whether you're buying a diamond ring or a designer handbag, just remember you're blowing your life savings on a high-priced illusion. People getting scammed left and right here, people.
If you've ever seen an ad for a jewelry store, you've probably heard them say phrases like diamonds are forever or diamonds are a girl's best friend. And certainly when it comes to marriage proposals, nothing is more iconic than the proposer getting down on one knee and presenting a diamond engagement ring to their sweetheart.
But why is that? Why are these shiny little rocks not only expensive, but also so revered in our culture? What if I were to tell you that the whole thing was just one big marketing scam? Today, the writers are taking a deep dive into the jewelry industry to answer the question, why do we care so much about diamonds?
So what makes diamonds so special? After all, a diamond is just a glittery little chunk of carbon. And yet somehow this sparkly mineral has gone on to become the official symbol of matrimonious union. According to data gathered by jewelry industry research industry head Kenneth Gassman, 75% of brides in the United States wear an engagement ring. It's such a ubiquitous part of the traditions surrounding marriage that hardly anyone ever seems to question it.
Well, we hate to be the bearer of bad news, but if you thought diamonds were made into the symbol of true love because they're rare and beautiful, you'd be sadly mistaken. In fact, despite the often outrageous price tag that comes attached to them, diamonds aren't even particularly rare. The truth as to why diamonds have gone on to become the official symbol of marriage is far more cynical in nature, and it has more to do with propaganda and sneaky marketing tactics than it has to do with love or beauty.
In his article of the February 1982 issue of The Atlantic, journalist Edward J. Epson wrote about the concept of the diamond invention. In other words, that belief that diamonds are rare, valuable, and a must-have status symbol is entirely a work of fiction, dreamed up by the diamond manufacturers as a way to drum up business. The creation of the diamond invention can actually be traced back to the origins of a corporation that just so happened to hold a total monopoly over the diamond industry until the early 21st century, De Beers Group.
Epstein's research on the diamond market reaches back to South Africa in the 19th century. In 1870, British businessmen stumbled across a massive diamond mine near South Africa's Orange River and quickly wasted no time raking in the gems hand over fist. But now that they were almost literally swimming in diamonds from their mining operation, the British financiers found themselves faced with a new dilemma. How do they make the most of their discovery without flooding the market?
Until now, diamonds had been harvested in relatively small batches in India and Brazil, accounting to only about a few pounds a year in terms of worldwide gem production. Diamonds did not have much intrinsic value on their own, and the reason they had been deemed valuable at all was almost exclusively due to their sheer scarcity. The discovery of the South African mines threatened to completely topple the assumed value of diamonds by shifting the balance of supply and demand, and at best, diamonds would become reclassified as only semi-precious gems.
So, how were the financiers able to make use of their mines without completely devaluing the price of the diamonds they were harvesting? Why, by pretending the diamonds were still scarce, of course. In 1888, the major investors of the South African diamond mines merged their resources together, forming a cartel known as De Beers Consolidated Mines Limited. De Beers was formed in order to monopolize and control the production of diamonds, while tricking consumers into believing that the diamonds they sold were still rare and valuable. And at this point, I'm sure it would come as no surprise if we told you that they succeeded. De Beers as a company took on a number of different pseudonyms around the world, whether it was Diamond Trading Company in England, the Syndicate in Israel, or the Diamond Development Corporation in Africa. All of these were simply De Beers in a clever disguise.
All the while, De Beers, in its many forms, perpetuated the illusion of diamonds as something rare enough to be worth the inflated price tag. And for most of the 20th century, De Beers enjoyed a lofty position as the undisputed kings of the diamond industry.
Okay, so now you know why diamonds are so expensive, but how did they become the symbol of marriage that they are today? While it might feel like the sentiment that diamonds are forever has been around for, well, forever, the widely accepted tradition of the diamond engagement ring has only been in popular practice for less than a century.
In 1938, America was still in the throes of the Great Depression. At around this time, diamonds were considered a luxurious and superfluous symbol of status, reserved only for the extremely wealthy. After all, with money being as tight as it was for the average Depression-era American, why would anyone want to spend their hard-earned pay on some shiny rocks, when that money could instead be put towards something more practical, like a car or a washing machine?
If De Beers wanted to keep the demand for diamonds high, they needed to come up with a new marketing strategy, and fast. So what new angle did they come up with to push those glittery carbon crystals? You guessed it, marriage. So much for money can't buy me love, huh?
De Beers collaborated with N.W. Ayer, a major American advertising agency, in order to reinvent the public perception of diamonds by making them into a symbol of romance. A massive marketing campaign was set into motion, as diamond rings were pushed not only via radio, newspapers, and magazines, but also through celebrity endorsements and product placement in the newly emerged motion picture industry.
And it worked. By 1941, diamond sales in the US had already shot up by 55%. In 1948, a copywriter for N.W. Ayer coined the phrase, "A diamond is forever." And the rest, as they say, is history.
The Earth is not flat, and climate change is real.